Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we are exploring the Roman invasion of Scotland. There are two walls associated with the Roman attempt to secure Northern Territory. The first one is Hadrian's Wall in the north of England. It is associated with the Roman Emperor Hadrian, and according to historians, the building began in 122 AD. Hadrian's Wall is a big stone wall, of which there is quite a lot left over. The Romans attempted to venture further north quite a few times, but were consistently struggling with the guerrilla war tactics of the Picts. The Antonine Wall, named after Emperor Antoninus Pius, was made from turf, soil and stones, and was about 3 to 4 meters high. Construction started in 142 AD, and it is far less preserved and visible than Hadrian's Wall. After a lot of back and forth with the Picts, eventually the Romans chose to retreat back to Hadrian's Wall and abandon the Antonine Wall, and that was about 162 AD, only 8 years after its completion, and we don't quite know why it was abandoned at the time. However, the death of the emperor does coincide with that year. The Antonine Wall stretches approximately 60 kilometers or 37 miles from the Firth of Clyde to the Firth of Forth, and at least 25 Roman forts or fortlets are located along the wall. Today we are visiting Bar Hill, which is a fairly well preserved fort. For a start, this fort is unusual for how high up it is for a Roman fort. It is 150 meters above sea level, and that makes it the highest on the line. Last year we visited the legionary fortress Inchtuthil, which was in a big field, but still slightly raised with a view. But the other thing is that next to Bar Hill there is an Iron Age style hill fort, but more about that later. The remains you can see on Bar Hill are primarily of the Principia, the fort's headquarters, and the bathhouse. In 1895 an altar to Silvanus, deity of woods and uncultivated land, was found on Bar Hill, possibly part of a small shrine outside the fort. The first excavations happened between 1902 and 1905 and revealed many things. A bag of workmen's tools, many shoes and sandals, a wooden comb, a piece of rope, arrowheads associated with Syrian archers, pottery, ballista balls, a compass leg, foods such as walnuts, hazelnuts, oyster shells, and bones of an ox. They found coins and 2 inscribed stones suggesting that auxiliaries from Lower Germany were manning the fort. Apart from the headquarters, there was also a granary to keep grain supplies, a water tank, streets, wooden barracks, and of course a bath further down the hill. In the courtyard of the headquarters, an exceptionally preserved well was found. It is 43 feet or 13 meters deep and 4 feet in diameter. It is to this day filled with rubble and water. It was built with stones all the way down, and the original stones were used to build the well mouth, which is not original, but using original stones. Later excavations hinted at a civilian settlement to the east, and in the 70s they discovered pottery, glass fragments, a bronze statuette in the nearby field, and they excavated the bathhouse and latrine block a little more. The whole block is overall 38 meters long and 5.5 meters wide. And now we are coming to the bathhouse, and a Roman bathhouse follows a particular regimented routine. When you enter, you are in the apodyterium, a room where you can store your clothes and get undressed. Next, you are going to the tepidarium, the warm room, then to the caldarium, the hot room for steam, and afterwards you can go to the frigidarium, a cold room, cool your body down. You can also return to the tepidarium, where you can put olive oil on your body and then you remove oil and dirt with the help of a set of curved metal tools called strigils. So it's a similar principle as it is used in saunas to improve blood circulation and other things. These are some tiny rooms, huh? This bath in particular also has a laconicum, a dry, hot resting room where you complete your bathing by resting and sweating. toilet. Alright. Do you have any thoughts about this Roman camp?
Well, I just find it interesting that the information that they gave about the people that built it was built by, I think it was Vitian soldiers from the Rhineland, but that it was garrisoned by Hamian archers from Syria. And basically, yeah, you had a very international collection of men at the fort, but there were also civilians as well, and apparently slaves and people like that.
So we're gonna go down to the wall down there, because this fort, this Roman fort, is south of the Antonine Wall, and we suspect the Antonine Wall might be down there somewhere. It's a very nice view from here. This is apparently pretty high for a Roman fort. It's definitely a lot of lumps and bumps. So you think this could be part of the Antonine Wall rather than ramparts?
Yeah, actually. I think that this bit over here, especially, looks like the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool view.
Yeah. There's a bit of a dip, sort of.
Yep.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, because there's stones here, so I mean,
Alright.
the Antonine Wall. I mean, why not?
Some stones and some blueberries growing on them.
Blueberry Wall.
Blueberry wall.
The Antonine Wall is often thought of as a Roman wall, but the British historian Gildas and English historian Bede said that the Antonine Wall was built by the Britons at the orders of the Romans, which would actually imply that, you know, despite the fact that the Romans built these forts, that actually the implication is that the Antonine Wall itself was built by the locals, but that the Romans asked them to do it.
So east of here is an Iron Age hill fort, Castle Hill, and we're going to check it out as well. And then after that, we're planning to go to another Roman fort called Rough Castle. So this was Bar Hill, and a little further along to the east is Rough Castle. Here's a much better view of the wall. It actually retains a little bit of volume compared to the bit you saw down there. So that's Bar Hill up there. It appears that the hill fort might be closer than we thought. It might be just up there. So from what I remember reading, there was a quarry on the other side. So that looks about right. So did you say this was the Manau area?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the name of the tribe that inhabited this area was the Maiatai. And I guess the implication from the fact that the Bar Hill Roman fort was built right next to this hill fort is that they were working with the locals.
I see.
Yep. But the Romans and the Maiatai had a strained relationship at the very least, because in the Severan campaigns of Scotland, so the third Roman invasion of Scotland, the Maiatai were said to have been the ones responsible for leading a rebellion against the Romans.
Mm-hmm. That is rather steep. A little bit of a note on Castle Hill, which has a small Iron Age style hill fort on top. It's not clear how old this hill fort is exactly, whether it is older or younger than the Roman fort. So the quarry must be on that side. But it suggests that it is in fact older than the Roman fort and was there before the Romans arrived. Part of it has been destroyed by a quarry. And there you have another view of the wall. So, right down there.
So the fact that you have here a native British hill fort right next to a Roman fort is exactly the same situation that you have at Newstead in the Borders, where Iron Age hill fort was on top of the hill, Eildon Hill North, which is a three-peaked hill, and it was known as Tremontium to the Romans, and they named their fort at the foot of the hill Tremontium. So just to emphasize the fact that you had the natives with their hill fort, and then at the bottom of the hill fort the Romans built their fort, and it's exactly the same here. Exactly the same pattern. Also, as far as this region is concerned, the River Carron runs through here, and so this region is known as Strathcarron. And in the 8th century there was a battle of Strathcarron where Owen of Altclut, which is now Dumbarton, defeated Freckled Donald of Dalriada, which is now Argyll. So this area was vitally important. Everybody was fighting over this area. Romans, Northumbrians, Scots,
And I think
Britons.
you can see Glasgow there in the distance.
Yep.
Quarry over there. It's hard to say how much exactly the quarry has taken off from the top. Do you think this is some kind of rampart down there?
Yeah,
Or would it be part of the Roman fort even? No.
I'm not sure.
It's definitely a very noticeable dip. So it could be an extra layer of wall. So we have another wall, which could also be modern. And the bar hill is right up there. This place has a nice atmosphere though. And following the wall along here. I mean, it is a fairly straight wall. It would make sense for a Roman camp to be rectangular or square. So I think it's time to go to the next destination now. Just notice the structure here in the field. Looks a bit like World War II, doesn't it? For whatever reason. It could be anything. We've made it. So it's quite extensive. I think this is part of the wall right next to us here. This looks like it. It's definitely quite a big ditch there. Rough Castle is a smaller fort and was only built in earth and timber. The fort housed about 500 Roman auxiliaries and was garrisoned by a unit from northeast France. The original plan was to have 7 forts 8 miles apart along the Antonine Wall, just like on Hadrian's Wall, but they ended up adding at least 11 more secondary forts, with 2 miles in between each, even before the main forts were finished, so there was obviously a lot of action going on at that time, a lot of raiding. Rough Castle is such a secondary fort. So this is still the wall, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's pretty massive. Okay, that looks like the parameters of the fort there. It's like around that area. That's an interesting shape. Any idea what that could be?
Oh god.
This is just a random dip, maybe some kind of building.
Yeah.
There's the wall over there. And that's us going towards the top of the fort. Oh yeah, look at these ramparts, wow. They're very obvious. Alright. There's a nice square shape. Let's see what that is. Commander's residence. And these are the barracks. So there's not a lot of stone left to see, but the shapes are still pretty distinct. Granary? This is a huge area as well. There is evidence of fighting around 155 AD around Rough Castle and signs of a fire, and it was indeed abandoned together with the rest of the wall in 162 AD. Rough Castle now counts as the best preserved fort. The Antonine Wall and ditch are especially well preserved around this area, as you can probably see. There were excavations here in 1902 to 1903 and 1932 to 1933, which identified the headquarters, the granary, officers' quarters inside the fort, and the bathhouse outside the fort. They found an inscribed tablet by the 6th cohort of Nervii, a unit from northeast France, and an altar dedicated to the goddess Victoria, probably set up by the same unit. The altar was found about 200 meters south of the fort, and one special feature of the fort are defensive pits called lilia. So we are on the other side of this massive fort.
There's an oak grove growing here.
Oh yes, these are all oaks. We're gonna just walk around the whole perimeter and see what else we can find. This also has a nice atmosphere. This would be the way to the Falkirk Wheel for this small wood here. But I don't think I want to go that far today. I just walked straight through the boggy bit there. Maybe not the best of ideas. My shoes are only a little wet. So then let's see what's on this side. think the implication is that this is the wall right on the right hand side of me, and that the fort itself was right next to it, so that's the whole fort, and the wall is running along it. Oh, we found the bathhouse. There's a picture of the excavations as well.
Such a hot day, you wouldn't mind a nice cold bath.
Yeah, as you can see, there's a lot less than what you saw at Bar Hill as far as bathhouse goes. So this is what they imagine it would have looked like. Let's see. Gardens, granary, barracks, everything that you need, and the bathhouse. Bathhouse number 5. Okay. And anybody else familiar with Asterix and Obelix? This is a 90s kid thing.
Oh god, it goes well beyond the 90s. It's back to like the 60s.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I'm sure they want to exclude the boomers and the Gen X. Any Gen Z still watching Asterix and Obelix? Aha, so this is where the pits are. Let's find out about them. Alright, so these are defensive pits. I guess if people are attacking in the night, they would fall in. It doesn't look particularly deep. Maybe they used to be deeper. And there's a whole field of them. So they are on this side of the wall. And the wall, Antonide's wall is up there, runs along there. Do you have any thoughts about these defensive pits? What do you think about them? Have you ever seen anything like that anywhere else?
No, I haven't. It's pretty cool.
Do you think that would have been effective to deter people?
I can imagine so, yeah. I mean, you look over at the edge here, and they would have had to get up this hill first, even before they could attack the fort. So
That's true.
I mean, yeah.
Right, so that's a shape I was puzzled about earlier, but this is part of the rampart, so it just follows along over there. Big ramparts, big fort. Although this is supposedly a small fort.
Yeah, it only stretches over to that big hump there, you see, just beyond the
Well, this is like the main part
street. Yes.
up to the hump, and beyond the hump there's about twice the amount of like additional buildings, like the bathhouse and so on.
Yeah, yeah.
So still, I mean, I would consider that big, but who am I? I guess Inchtuthil was much larger compared to that. Here's a bit of a view of what the Antonine Wall looks like. It runs from Bo'ness in the east to Old Kilpatrick in the west. And Bar Hill is roughly in the middle, and the other place that we've just been as well. So this is the end of our adventure then. Thank you for watching. And if you liked it, feel free to leave a thumbs up as well.